Welcome to Split Your Head. I'm your host, Bob, and today's special guest is Jeremiah Rosario, a Florida-based filmmaker who has deep ties to Split Your Head. You may remember him from the first few episodes we released in 2023, as he not only helped me launch this podcast, but also coined the title and came up with the questionnaire before parting ways to focus on his wild and zany filmmaking. I've been dying to have him back on and figured what better way to lure him in than to talk about one of our shared loves, Shinya Tsukamoto, a huge influence for Jeremiah and a recent discovery for me. Tsukamoto is most well known for his groundbreaking cyberpunk masterpiece, TETSUO the Iron Man. However, we felt it would be best to discuss three lesser-known films of his to hopefully uncover some new insights about this singular artist. Those three films will be Gemini from 1999, Haze from 2005, and Nightmare Detective from 2006. Jerry, thank you for coming on. It's a pleasure. It's an honor. You look wonderful. You're on a great angle. For those just listening, he kind of did that sort of sachet with his hand to show that he's deeply flattered. And
actually, I have carpal tunnel. I was just trying to work some things.
Okay. I'm sorry to hear that. How'd you get that? Whoa. Okay. So Shinya Tsukamoto.
Yes. What a guy.
So
what a talent.
When we were talking about doing an episode recently, and I asked you, you should come on, we should talk about one of your favorite and most inspiring directors. You mentioned Shinya Tsukamoto as one of the key ones, and I gotta know, like, what is it about him? What's it about his work that kind of brings the juices out of you, so to speak?
Yeah, it was actually I wanted to do Taro Ishii, so really I really don't care about Shinya Tsukamoto whatsoever.
What? Okay,
yeah, so,
records.
Skip,
no. Start all over again. Taro Ishii, the director of Horrors of Malformation.
Yeah, Orgies of Ito.
Yeah.
No, seriously, Tsukamoto's stuff is it's the energy really that I find it's infectious. The guy believes so much in what he's doing, and it translates well to his films, and you can't help but be pulled in by his madness. And it's also inspiring as a creative as well. I think one of my first shorts was this one called Shards, where I get possessed by a box set of Tsukamoto's films. I get turned into a cybernetic couch potato of some sort.
Yeah.
And man, it's just the guy there's this playful energy. Even when he's like being really violent, you just can't help but kind of giggle with enthusiasm and glee and yeah. Oh my God. I love his work. Yeah.
Yeah.
How about you?
No, I'm the same. I just for me, he has such a singular style, and a lot of his films feel like these dreams or something that could only be made by him. I also, a lot of his films have that cyberpunk kind of signature to them, with TETSUO being kind of like, seems like the film that really started that whole scene, it seems. And you can kind of see traces of it throughout all of his films to some degree. Even if it's just this like transgressive electricity, you kept saying energy and I kept thinking electricity, right? Electricity. The industrial version of energy in a way, right? So it seems to apply really well to Shinya Tsukamoto. Did you ever send that short Shards to Arrow? Because I feel like they would get a kick out of that.
So two things happened with that. One, Arrow's streaming service, their Twitter channel, actually retweeted the short film and said that I was a
Nice.
madman. Only a madman could create something like this.
That's
And
wonderful.
yeah, given I mean I think Shinya Tsukamoto is a madman also, so I took that as a big compliment. And the other thing was Tsukamoto himself saw it, and
Oh, what? That's amazing.
yeah, and he gave me a like on when I was sharing the short film, so it was cool.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh man. Do you know if he speaks English?
Um, we're not close like that, so I can't tell you.
Fair enough.
Not
Fair enough.
yet, not yet
Yeah.
anyway. But maybe
Yeah.
another short or two.
Well, partly I'm asking because I know he was in the Martin Scorsese film Silence, which I actually haven't seen. I think I just learned about him being in it recently,
Hmm.
and so I'm wondering because the film, from what I understand, does take place in Japan, right?
Hmm.
So,
Hmm.
have you seen it?
No, Scorsese's film you're saying, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah. No, I haven't seen it yet. What's his name? Matt on Letterbox was gushing about it, told me to give it a watch. So
yeah.
yeah, it's definitely on my radar.
Yeah, I think I was really interested in seeing it when I learned about Shinya being in it, and then I think I watched some video on YouTube about it that completely spoiled the ending. I was like, oh man, because it has a really
Oh
cool ending.
no!
Yeah. But you can still see it and you won't have the ending spoiled and you'll enjoy it
Yeah.
all for its originality and not expect the ending to come as it does.
Hmm.
Um, but someone who you kind of can't really spoil is Shinya Tsukamoto. His
Hmm.
films don't really they don't really follow this kind of narrative logic in that
No,
sense, you
no,
know?
they zag left when you think they're gonna go right, and they go right when you think they're gonna go left. And the guy
Yeah.
just he not only feels like he's playing in a sandbox, he built the sandbox himself.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, it's just his rules top to bottom, man. And yeah, you can feel that in even his the films that I'm not like overly fond of, and we'll get to one in particular.
Right, right, right.
But
Yeah.
even in that one, it's like there's no denying this guy's signature. You know what I mean? Like
Totally.
it's he never compromises on what makes a Tsukamoto film a Tsukamoto film. Like
Yeah.
it's always still his 100%. It doesn't feel influenced by anyone else.
Yeah. I mean, I wonder if he even could make something that feels completely unlike his own style. But I think we'll get to that because Nightmare Detective does get pretty close to that.
Hmm.
But let's start then with the earliest film of the three that we're going to talk about, Gemini, from 1999, which is loosely based on a story by Edo Gawa Ranpo, who was like a notorious writer and other films that are based on his works, notable ones anyways. Like I looked up a list and a lot of them I hadn't heard of, but the ones that I had seen or at least heard of were Teruo Ishii's Horrors of Malformed Men in
Mm,
1969. And then we've got Noboru Tanaka's Roman porno Watcher in the Attic from
hmm.
1970. I started watching that. I don't think I finished it. And then there's also the short film collection Rampo Noir from 2005, which I think has a bunch of different directors attached to it. I
Hmm.
want to say maybe Hisayasu Saito might have done something for that one, but that sounds amazing. And after revisiting Gemini, I feel like I want to dive into that one. But yeah, Gemini, it's a weird one for Shinya. It's a period piece.
Hmm.
It's not a story that he came up with, and it's sort of still he manages to like inject his own signatures into it and kind of plays
Hmm.
it within a very Tsukamoto-esque world.
Yeah,
What are your what
his yeah, I was gonna say his sensibilities are like just as apparent in this film as they are anywhere else, despite it being a change of location. You know, a location that we're not used to seeing, I guess, in
mm,
Tsukamoto's films, where we expect this kind of like industrial wasteland kind of thing, and this was actually a rather pleasant um, setting for a Tsukamoto film.
That's one way of putting it. Yeah.
Yeah, it was just it's gorgeous. I remember I was sending you like screenshots
Hmm.
of just different parts of the film. I'm like, oh my god, this thing is just breathtaking. Some of the shots, I
Yeah.
think it's probably one of his prettiest looking films I can think of.
Yeah, I would agree. I think like I went through my review of it when I first watched it a couple years ago, and I did say in it that I think it's his most beautiful film.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it really does come down to, there's amazing costumes, there's
Yeah.
incredible set design, um, and it does feel like it is taking place in, I believe it's supposed to be like the early 1900s. I think it's
Mm-hmm.
like the Meiji era,
1910. Yeah.
1910. Okay, so
The Meiji.
Meiji era, yeah.
Yeah.
So it does feel like perfectly situated in that. But what's interesting is that to me, it still has this like distinctly, Tsukamoto esque artificial feel to it. And that's something that as I was watching it for this episode, it's something that I would connect as part of his style that you see in all of his films, is that he has this like artificiality to his films that I wouldn't necessarily call surreal, and I wouldn't necessarily call it feeling fake. It feels genuine and authentic, but it does also feel artificial.
Is
And
it is it like hyper real? Is what you're trying to say? Like
no, no. Like watching Gemini, it felt a lot like the camera's almost like floating, and
oh,
everyone's
okay.
so close to each other, and it's
Mm-hmm.
it's almost like it's moving at its complete own pace that
Yeah.
you can't even put your finger on it exactly. And
Mm.
I also wondered if like I feel like his films must have been recorded. The dialogue must have been recorded off the set because it feels dubbed, but not in like a corny way or anything. It just has that
Right.
sort of swimmy feel to it.
Do you feel like it was just a lot of it is ADR'd? So like
Yeah, potentially.
yeah. Okay.
I've kind of grown to love that and embrace that style. I mean, it's definitely rooted in a lot of like old school Italian films, and
Mm-hmm.
how like even Fellini's films, which are considered masterpieces, no one's gonna laugh at the dubbing in those, and those
Mm-hmm.
people will claim are like a signature part of Fellini's style. It's this
Mm-hmm.
whole element that like situates it in like almost like a dream like feel, and I think that is definitely happening in Gemini, if not
Yeah.
all of Tsukamoto's films. But you were gonna say?
Oh no, I was just going to completely derail the conversation and talk about.
Go ahead, man. Go ahead.
No, no, yeah. Before I forget it, I noticed that like Tsukamoto likes to likes to make women the centerpiece of a lot of his films, and a
Okay.
lot of a lot of what um, he puts them through some shit. They go through it, and
Yeah.
in different ways. But I find that like with um, what was it, Tokyo Fist. There it was.
Yeah. Yeah.
In that one specifically, it's a woman finding her power in a relationship. Um, this one, Gemini, this is there's a lot of this gaslighting, so a woman kind of losing her power in the relationship, and yeah, then you have what there's what's the other one that I'm
I feel like
trying.
you're gonna say Kodako.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, I knew you were
Yeah,
gonna mention that one.
yeah, and then it's like it's kind of both a woman losing and gaining power when it comes to motherhood, like having to sacrifice herself
Yeah.
for her child, but the power that it also has by being a mother as well. And yeah, he likes to play with it. Oh, and the other one was Snake of June.
Oh
Um,
yeah, yeah.
Sexuality and the sexual kind of liberation, but also
Hmm.
how a man can manipulate that. and use that for his own selfish, desires. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's and the power play between that, like a woman giving and a man taking, and maybe even the other way around, because she has um, so much sexual power in that relationship. But yeah, I love what he does with women, and he's constantly exploring these dynamics around them, and their roles in Japanese society. So it's
Yeah.
pretty cool.
I
Yeah.
yeah, I would totally agree. And I don't know if I would ever. I think with him, he kind of always switches it up from film to film, kind of
Hmm.
as you were explaining. And so to some degree, there is always a strong female character in his films, that shows agency, but then is it possibly like put through the ringer?
Mm.
But it's like every film, it's like he decides, he's like, am I going to explore something through like the masculine as the like the cipher or the protagonist, or through the feminine as like the protagonist? Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? So he kind
Hmm.
of decides, and I think that's a really cool way to like diversify his whole
Yeah. Yeah.
filmography in a way. Whereas like
Yeah.
each film has those distinct Tsukamoto elements, but they're
Hmm.
always like bringing something different to the table. He's kind of asking different questions and receiving different answers in a
Yeah.
way.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely. And
yeah.
even in Tetsuo, he does the same thing where, again, he like explores the power dynamic when it comes to sex between a man and a woman.
Mm.
Um, because there's a part where he gives the woman the dick, and
Okay.
she's the
Yeah.
one,
Yeah. Yeah.
the one doing the penetration and the penetrating, and
Right. Right.
yeah.
He's
So it's
flipping that. Yeah.
he's flipping it around.
He's
Yeah,
flipping it around. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. He just, again, this is his sandbox, and the guy is just taking all these. I feel like he likes to play with what expectations and tropes and cliches, and completely just like, we're gonna do it the
Yeah.
Tsukamoto way, like.
Yeah, I think it's the punk rock side of the cyberpunk in him
Yeah,
to kind of
yeah.
do that. But even still, like I find as you go through his films, it isn't always a matter of like, oh, you thought things were going to be this way? Well, screw that, like
Hmm.
he isn't just acting as like how do I put this, like in revolt, you know what I mean?
Right, for the
He's
sake of it. Yeah.
exactly, yeah, like he is trying to explore really unique ideas, and I'm curious as to why he found himself wanting to adapt or loosely adapt this Edogawa Rampo story, since it had been around for a long time. And I think quite a few Japanese filmmakers had been tackling that material. So I wonder why he's like, okay, what can I bring out of this?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think, I mean, this might be, I'm just kind of like beating a dead horse when it comes to what I said, him making these movies and kind of wrapping them around a woman and
Mm,
and their plight. But I think it's, again, I mean, look at the poster, for crying out loud. It's like,
yeah. I'm
but
like, where's my? Oh yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah, and this poor woman's just kind of like being gaslit by two men here. She
Mm,
expects to, she just wants someone to love her, and you've got one guy who is unreliable in the sense that, while he provided this sense of adventure and um, kind of spoke to her more playful, wild side. And this is, I'm speaking specifically of Sketchy, Sketchy, I think.
sketchy.
Sketchy. I hope I'm saying that right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
let me pull it up here.
So you have Yukio,
Hmm.
who is the doctor, and then you have his And spoiler, right? We're gonna say spoilers.
Yeah, we'll say spoiler alert if we're gonna ruin the
Spoiler
ending.
alert right
Yeah.
here. Yeah.
But yeah,
So
you got Yukio
and
who's played by
Stukichi or something like that. He is Yukio's brother.
Sutakichi.
Yeah,
Yeah.
is Yukio's twin brother, and he is this. He's like the pariah, and comes back. But he was supposed to after he was kicked out of the village or out of this like this traveling. What was it like this kind of troupe that he was
Yeah.
a part of. He promises Rin, who's the lead actress. He's like, I'm gonna come back for you, and never does.
Yeah.
So she falls in love with his brother Yukio, who speaks more to the stability, like the desire for stability, security, and
Yeah.
tenderness. And Yukio and Tsurukichi uh, provide, you know, they're like two sides of the same coin, and they don't, either one provide Rin with everything she wants in a partner, but together they do, which is ends up being maddening because she's bouncing between them throughout the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, what's wild is that Yukio, he's thrown down a well. He's
Yep.
kind of ransacked by uh, uh, Tsukichi, and when he finally escapes from the well, he's no longer the Yukio that Rin fell in love with. He's just as like um, wild and unhinged as his long lost brother. So Rin is never feels like Rin is never happy. Is going to be happy because um, yeah, these one guy is either unreliable and she's like constantly chasing him, and the other one um, is, I don't know a better way to put it, but like damaged goods now,
Yeah.
and she can't get what she wants,
It's
and
like
it's sad.
it's either like the basic bitch or the bad boy, you know?
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
then and
exactly.
then
Yeah.
and then the basic guy became the
Yeah,
bad
the bad
boy.
boy. Yeah,
Yeah.
after she's like, you know what? She's like with the basic guy. She gets
Yeah.
that she's like the bad boy. I want the bad boy. She gets with the bad boy. Bad boy is like acting like the basic bitch, and
Yeah.
then she's like, I'm tired of you acting like the basic bitch. I want you to act like the bad boy. Basic bitch kills the bad boy, comes back, but now he's the bad boy and he's not the basic bitch, but she wants basic bitch again. And it's too
Yeah.
late. Too late,
Yeah.
Rin. Too late.
You
Just
can't
find
have it, Rin.
you can't
Yeah.
yeah. It's just accept your fate.
It's interesting that you kind of honed in on her story. I think for me watching it, I always kind of I guess relate to or gravitate more towards Yukio's story and sort of this whole idea of the other, and like how he's got this twin brother who's kind of like his doppelganger, who's supposed to
Right.
be his, as you put it, like it's almost like the feral side of him.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so, and I think a big theme of the film that really resonated with me was this whole idea of like class,
Hmm.
because he's like this doctor who's well off, or at least, comfortable, and sort
Hmm.
of part of like the upper echelons of society. Meanwhile, you have this, his twin brother who's a feral thief who's like running with this like circus clan or something. And so he becomes the evil one, but it's like he has to switch places with him in order to
Yeah.
like defeat him. But I guess they both have to do that in a way, right? I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's how I keep getting this name wrong. How Sutakichi, he has to become this
So
dapper gentleman.
yeah, no, I'm sorry. It's just I'm pretty sure, like maybe I'm wrong, and I'm sure
Okay.
someone will. but I'm pretty sure when there's a SU and then a T following, it's just like you
Oh,
barely pronounce the U. It's just
oh,
like
so
Stukichi.
Stukichi,
Yeah, like that.
Stukichi,
Yeah, yeah.
Stukichi. Okay, I'll try to remember that. So Stukichi, Stukichi, Stukichi. Stickitchi. What?
Oh my god.
We're going to hell.
Yeah. It's just
Stickitchi.
bad. Yeah.
He becomes like this upper class guy, and Yukio becomes this lower class guy, and that's the only way to, you know, I, I wouldn't say defeat each other. I mean, that's kind of what they
Hmm.
try to do, but that's really the
Hmm.
only way for one side to dominate, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. This is basically just Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, isn't it?
Yeah, actually, that's not a bad comparison.
The more we
Um,
talk about it, like it's just like, yeah, this is not really that far off.
no, no. And I wish I was more acquainted with that whole story, because I know that is it Miss Osborne, Dr. Jekyll and Mrs. Hyde, or Mr. Hyde, sorry, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde's like love interest has her own kind of arc in the
Hmm.
story, and I wonder how much it relates to Rin's arc
Yeah.
in Gemini. Yeah.
Hmm. Something to look
Yeah,
into
yeah.
for
Have you
sure.
ever seen The Strange Case of Jekyll and Mrs. Osborne?
No, I've
I
never
think
seen
that's
it.
what it's called. The Valerian Boracek film with
Looking it
Udo
up.
Kier. Oh,
Oh, Udo. Oh no, I definitely have to see this.
it's wild. It's so wild.
Um, Gemini. What? Okay, I wanted to ask you. What did you think of the ending?
Oh, um like in what sense? Like, what do you mean
So
exactly? I don't know why. It's just for this film. I think like what do I think happened? Is that what you're
yeah,
getting
yeah,
at?
because
Or
it feels ambiguous. It's
totally.
yeah, the so Yukio is seen escorting one of the younger villagers. It looks like to the village, but it looks like the village is set ablaze.
Oh, okay.
Like there's like it looks like pillars of smoke or there's smoke coming from the all the houses, and you've got
Oh,
that
okay.
like that kind of wavy fire effect. You know what I mean? Like
Huh.
so I don't know if did he just burn the village down or something at the end
I didn't. I don't. I've. It's weird. I didn't
or
even pick up on that.
yeah, because the whole movie the guy is like he's like, oh, yucky villagers, filthy, disgusting, homeless people, and
Oh, okay.
so
Oh,
he decides to help the people who are already better off,
yeah.
who are yeah, and this pretty much discards um, the lower class citizens. And at the end of the movie, um, he sees a child that's just like filthy, tattered clothes, and just
Yeah.
looks like a mess. And instead of ignoring him, he follows the child. And at first, I thought it was, oh, this whole ordeal with his long lost brother changed him, and now he's got sympathy, for this lower class of people, and he's gonna go and help them. But you see the place looks like it's on fire. So and
Yeah.
he made a remark at some point in the movie about I'd rather just burn the whole place down so
Yeah.
I don't have to deal with it.
Um. I mean, speaking to him, escorting this like filthy looking child,
Yeah.
I kind of got this like metaphorical sense that it's like the cycle is always gonna repeat, because he had the two twin boys, right, with Rin,
Yes. Yeah.
and him escorting the one boy was like, I don't know if it was supposed to say like that was his son that he was escorting, but just this idea that like no matter what, you know, people will always be divided up into these two parties or these two classes, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and that will always lead to this sort of like constant battle between them of like, you
Mm-hmm.
know, one trying to rise up and the other trying to like burn out the other one. And
Yeah.
I kind of just took it as that, as like this cycle will always repeat no matter
Okay.
what. Yeah.
No problem. Yeah. Well, you're wrong, but that's fine. So,
Oh,
no, no, no,
okay.
no, no, no,
No,
no,
I was scared. I was like, oh,
no,
okay. I want to hear the retort.
no,
Like,
no,
bring it,
no,
man.
no. Absolutely, no. That's just as valid as any nonsense I have to say. No, it's. I like that. I've never
Okay.
heard that perspective before. So that's interesting. Nice way to put it.
Well, what did you think then?
Um, I don't know what to think.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
he's, from, I believe, Tsukamoto himself. He says it's ambiguous.
Okay.
That's it. All right.
Ah, okay.
I don't
But
know.
okay, but because this involves like a text, you know, like he's adapted it. I wonder what the Rampo story is like saying, you
Ooh,
know, like
that's
I
right.
wonder, but it's one of those things where it's like it goes to me, it goes back to like The Shining in a way where, you know, the Kubrick film adapting it, he took so many liberties that it completely changes the story in a way. So it's like you could go back and find out that the ending was conclusive of the actual story, but what he's saying in his film version of Gemini is completely different. Invalid,
Right.
of course,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. Absolutely.
It's not a super long film. It's only an hour 23 minutes, which is something that's very common for Tsukamoto films. So I feel like we can move on to an even shorter film that he made,
Oh, yeah.
which is Haze from 2005, which is interesting. I actually had no idea that the cut that's on the Arrow box set is technically like the extended director's cut, and there was an original cut of the film that was only 25 minutes.
Really? Now I'm
Yeah.
wondering how that 25 minutes will play out. Like, if it improves the film or or doesn't. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just
Yeah.
curious how digestible it is versus this 84. What? How long is this other one?
40, like
40,
45
45 minutes.
minutes.
45 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it'll be easier to digest, but I mean, like, how does it sit once you've digested it compared to the 20-minute longer version?
Yeah.
You know?
I think an element of how claustrophobic it is because it does take a bit of time in this like underground um like hell. I guess it's hell,
Yeah.
right?
Um, I don't know what it is. It's this labyrinth that feels like Jigsaw made it or something.
Sure. Yeah, yeah, totally.
Yeah, it's freaking wild, man. But
Yeah.
I think the cut that we saw, I remember feeling by the end of it like this is almost too much. Like I was
Mm. Okay.
so, but it was good. Like it took me to the edge of what I felt like where it was so much tension that I would have kind of just been like, all right, now I'm kind of like when you see the monster too many times, it's just like
Sure.
lost its appeal or
Yeah.
its potency. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
but it didn't. It took me to the edge of that, and then it finished. It wrapped everything up. Like I think it was a timely ending. Like it was
Mhm.
perfect.
Yeah, it's a great ending.
Yeah.
Um I find it's like I agree with you that it does almost feel like a bit too much. For me it's more you know, it's such a balancing act when you have something that's so bleak and something that's so like menacing and electrifying, which I feel like this film does. but it's such a gloom cloud of a film that you spend so much time in this world that he's created that you're like, oh, okay, I'm kind of getting bummed out now, you know?
Yeah, 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 yeah. I honestly, for as tension filled and stressful as it was to sit through that, I derived some sick enjoyment from it as well.
It's the filmmaking.
Yeah, man. There was just something about it that I felt like I was in one of those chambers that deprives you of your senses.
Oh yeah, yeah,
So it's just
totally.
such a unique experience for me with watching a movie that it was just like I can barely see what's happening. I'm hearing these awful sounds. You know, these like guttural noises from
Yeah.
Tsukamoto himself,
Yeah.
and then like so my ears were. I felt like my ears were um, working harder than they normally would because I
Okay.
couldn't really see. So
Yeah.
so it was just like, oh, when you hear his teeth scraping across metal,
Oh yeah.
you're just like, oh my god, I just want this to end.
Right, right.
But keep going.
Yeah, yeah.
And oh man, no, yeah, it was just one elaborate maze or trap to get through, and it was like I felt for the guy, but at the same time, there was this part of me that's just like, yeah, I want to see what else you could come up with. um,
Mm,
what else can you put this poor guy through? But
right.
yeah, by the end of it, I would say I was done. I think I was just exhausted,
Yeah.
and I was finally able to breathe when he bumped into I can't recall, but she's the lead actress in Tokyo Fist.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I thought she looked familiar.
Hmm.
That's cool. He does tend to work with a lot of the same people, which I noticed actually with Rin. That was the first film she'd ever done before, which I was really
You
impressed by.
couldn't.
Like,
Yeah, I was gonna say you wouldn't know.
no, she killed it. Yeah. Um, oh, so the actors are all just man, young man, young man, young woman, woman. I'm guessing it's yeah, it's her name is Kaori Fuji
Hmm.
and she's Hizuru in Tokyo Fist. And she's just
Yes.
woman in this. And I think that's almost like a good way of like selling the film to people is like it's 45 minutes and there's no character names and there's like really no plot. There is a journey, I guess. It's almost just like more textural than like text based. Do you know what I mean? Like it's just this guy work and then eventually a woman working their way through like a hell, like a void.
Pretty
And
much, yeah.
it's one thing I love about it is like you can kind of tell, and I don't mean this to be like disparaging or anything, but like you can kind of tell that it was like very handmade and like DIY,
Hmm.
and maybe he didn't have like the biggest budget per se, but it's just one of those things where he pushed his ideas so far that it's like you kind of you fall into that like how would I put this? Like you fall into a trance with it where you're like, this looks better than anything that a big budget
Hmm.
could make, just
Yeah.
because of the way he utilizes what he has.
Yeah, took one idea and just put every all his energy into that one thing. And if anyone was going to make sell us on something like low budget like this, it's going to be him. Um,
Mm.
Tetsuo is not a high budget movie,
No, not at
and
all.
and and look what he did there. So yeah, the guy can stretch a dollar. You know what I
Oh
mean? Like
yeah.
so, it's very impressive. I didn't think for 1 minute that any of the trappings in Haze felt amateurish or anything. But um,
Yeah, I guess that's not a great way to put it, but
mhm.
do you know what I mean? That like I guess maybe because like you're a filmmaker and I've watched a lot of films. It's like you can kind of get a sense of, oh, okay, I think I know how they did that here, and I think I know how
Sure,
they did.
sure, yeah,
And sometimes you have to kind of turn that off. And I found this was a situation where like I didn't necessarily have to turn that off. I just started to fall into like a trance where it faded away.
yeah, yeah. Like I said, he does what he does with so little is impressive, and um,
Mm-hmm.
the results speak for themselves. Like you said, you fell into a trance, and any of what usually would be shortcomings in someone else's movie end up,
Yeah.
you know, being virtues here.
Yeah. I was just trying to see if I could find the budget for Tetsuo because
Oh
I'm
yeah,
curious now. I'm like how little.
$15.
15. I mean realistically more like 15,000.
Yeah, I'm sure.
But
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know if he was paying his actors or anything. But it does seem like, he's Hayes was kind of maybe made in a period where he wasn't getting a lot of money or getting a lot of offers, and he just needed to like release something, and it does have this very personal feel because of that.
Hmm.
Like there's something very bleak and existential about it, especially like with the ending. And I don't
Mm.
even know if you can really spoil it other than just saying that like they do get out of this
Yeah.
space, but
Yes.
what they get out into is really up for interpretation.
Yeah. I still it it almost feels like some kind of like a metaphor for like a broken marriage or something.
Sure.
And you like the traps and all these things kind of feel like one obstacle after another that you're going through, and you're constantly persevering so that you could get to some resolution where everything is fixed. And and then they get there, and they all they have are memories. They don't have. I mean, the ending is spoiler is I think she dies, and he tries to get help and doesn't. He's not able to do it in time, and
mm.
he's old and alone, and all he has are the memories of when they were together, and shows them like watching a movie or something, eating popcorn. I think I can't. It's
I
been a
thought they were
little bit.
watching fireworks.
That's what it was. Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like movies on the brain, but yeah, they're together is
Right,
the point,
right.
and they're happy, and they look happy anyway, and
Yeah.
yeah, that's how I took the whole thing, as this kind of stand-in for the trials and tribulations of a relationship on the
Yeah.
rocks.
I guess I like that interpretation. That didn't maybe that did cross my mind a little bit. I think I took it in more of like, running with the existentialist theme of like not so much a marriage falling apart, but this idea of like domestic bliss and
Mm,
how it's sort of like an empty space for
hmm.
maybe according to Tsukamoto, it kind of makes me think of like I mean, Train Spotting's the film that comes to mind
Hmm.
immediately when I think about that. Of like he's gonna run away from the life of being a druggie to like having a car in a garage and buying lottery tickets and like watching the game and just like sort of these like everyday mundane things that kind of all add up to nothing.
Yeah.
I mean, if you have that perspective,
Right, for sure. Yeah, no,
um,
I could
and
see that.
and I think that's sort of how I looked at it. Is like, is maybe to Shinya Tsukamoto, uh, it's almost like a life without art, without creating art, a life where he just lives this like domesticated life, would
Mm.
be akin to going through this like industrial hellscape, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. Good job, Bob. I'm gonna switch mine and
Yes.
go with yours.
Well, yours is your interpretation is a lot sadder in a way.
Yeah.
Like
Well,
as I'm
to be fair, I'm projecting since my marriage is on the rocks as well. So
oh no, no,
no, no,
please
no,
tell me. Okay. Oh god.
no,
I was
no. I'm
like
joking.
I could have sworn your wife was talking to us just before this, and
Yes, yes.
I was like, oh, oof.
No,
I'm
yeah.
like, I do not want to hear that news.
No,
It's
no.
like, it's not even bad for you. It's bad. It's like I don't want to hear that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah,
That's terrible for me. I don't know about you, but I don't want to.
yeah. No, no. We're happily married, man. We're doing
Oh,
well.
that's
Thank
good.
you.
Yeah,
Yep.
and you're also a filmmaker, so you're clearly not in the doldrums of this like industrial hellscape because you're not
Mm,
able to like put yourself out there in a personal, expressive way. You know.
yeah, no. If I, that's why. Jeez.
Sorry,
If
that was a mouthful, yeah.
Yeah, no, no, but I think that's exactly why what your interpretation, why it hits pretty hard for me when you talk about not being able to express yourself creatively. It's
Yeah,
you may as well be dead. Um, at least
yeah,
from my perspective. Um, that's why that's why I still come back to Letterbox. That's why I still make ridiculous short films. Um, and why I participate in podcasts. It's just you can't not express yourself creatively. Like
yeah,
it's just I could yeah, especially when you take it that it's Shinya Tsukamoto as the main character.
right, yeah,
It gives more credibility to your interpretation. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, and then that's like his main actress too. Like he uses her in other movies, so maybe that
Mm.
even adds more to it. Like you're my what do you call,
Muse?
like, muse? Yeah, yeah, that's exactly it. And
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, there might be worth some more there worth exploring.
mm, yeah, yeah. Well, I'm glad that resonates with you, you know?
Yeah,
And
I like it.
I think it almost puts a more, it's weird because it sounds more nihilistic in a way, but it also sounds more hopeful to me.
Yeah.
Because and this is something I go on about all the time of like, you know, how can a film be really that pessimistic or cynical or nihilistic when the film itself was made, you know, like the director, whoever it was behind it, the crew actually managed to get it out into the world, you know,
Mm,
and the act of doing that is like creation, you know.
mm-hmm,
It's like you're doing something positive by doing that. So regardless of how bleak the actual like product itself is, the film, the piece, or whatever, it still is this positive act. Do you know what I mean?
mm-hmm. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So yeah, and I think Haze is such a intense and textural film. It really feels like a primal scream, you know.
Mm,
Uh,
I like
but
that.
it's kind of hard to believe then that only a year later he'd be delivering maybe your most hated film of his.
Yeah. Oh
Nightmare
man.
Detective from 2006.
Yikes. Okay. It was nice being on the podcast, and
No, no, come back.
oh boy.
Okay, you tell me why you didn't like it, and I'll tell you why I didn't. Okay, I didn't think it was like incredible, but I think you told me you didn't like it before I watched it, and so I kind of went in being like, "Oh no, here's a slog," and then I was like, "Wait a second, this kind of kicks ass sometimes." But yeah, you go.
okay. Yeah, I just found it boring. I
Okay.
hate to, yeah, that's really it. Where I find that a lot of his other films, there's a method to his madness. This kind of felt aimless to me. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, and it almost felt like he had all these ideas and needed to get all of them into this one movie, and yeah, it just didn't gel well for me. It just not a single part, not one element of this thing really had an impact on me, and I think that's if I had to be objective, I would say this was like a 3.5 star movie,
Oh wow.
right? I mean, if like you could be objective with film, but I'm just saying, right? But the reason I gave it, I think a two and a half, um,
Yeah.
is because a film that's boring is one thing to me, but a film that's boring and made by Shinya Tsukamoto, it's like,
Mm.
yeah, it hurts. It hurts in a different kind of way, man. And yeah, what did I even write about it? I said this Shibuti mashup
Shib- Shibuti mash. What?
of of Dreamscape and Nightmare on Elm Street. Yeah, yeah, it had
Oh
promising
yeah.
ideas, and it does. Yeah, yeah, that's it's just it felt nonsensical, and it was a snooze fest for me. It just did not land for me whatsoever.
Ah,
No,
I'm
it
sorry to
was
hear that.
yeah, it kind of reminded me. Actually, no, I can't even compare it to Tetsuo 3. Tetsuo 3,
Oh.
it was Tetsuo 3 bored me to tears because there was so much action. Like
Oh, okay.
it was like kind of almost the opposite of this movie, where this
Huh.
movie kind of felt like it was meandering and dragging, and with the exception of these certain like flare ups and energy where they'd have the dream and spoiler alert, they'd off themselves.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I don't know, just didn't do it for me, man.
That's fair.
Yeah, yeah,
You're
go
not the
ahead.
only one. You're not the only one. Another friend of mine was saying that it was terrible, and I think I've heard that from quite a few people that it's like a weak Tsukamoto film. I will say I agree that Tetsuo 3 is terrible. I was
Hmm.
that was like the first film I watched of his that I was like, "What? You didn't
Yeah,
make an amazing movie? What the hell happened?"
that was like, have you seen Rocky 4?
No,
You ever see?
I haven't
Okay,
seen any of the Rockies. I'm
okay,
sorry.
okay. No, well, there's a part where Rocky's fighting Ivan Drago, right? Who up until this point in the movie, at the end, he seems like you almost expect, like, if they ripped the skin off his face, there'd be like a Terminator under there,
Oh
and
wow. Okay.
so it just feels like he's just unstoppable. And then Rocky finally clips him in such a way that he causes him to kind of bleed just a little bit,
Okay.
and it's like, you see, he's not a machine. He's a man. He's a man. You can
Okay.
hurt him.
Right.
That's what I felt with Tetsuo 3 and Tsukamoto, man. I was like,
Yeah.
oh, he is just a man. He can't make mistakes. Like,
Right.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It was
Um.
sobering.
Yeah. I think I think when I got to Tetsuo 3, it was almost like, okay, well, now I know I'm not crazy because I'm rating all of his films 4 or higher. It's like, okay, no, like as you say, he is fallible, right?
Yeah,
Infallible is,
yeah.
yeah. So um, I thought maybe I was just like under some spell or something. I'm like, another good one. You know what I mean? Um, the thing, okay, so how I would compare Nightmare Detective and Tetsuo 3, um, Tetsuo 3 felt like it had all the touchstones of Tsukamoto, it just failed at all of them.
Yeah.
They all just, it's like the plates were all set up to spin and they just didn't. And so
Hmm.
you had like, was it 80 minutes of just, of like, okay, why isn't this working? And I mean, it's not working because it's American. I think that's what, it was an American production. I think that's a
Hmm.
big
Yeah.
part of it. Whereas with Nightmare Detective, why I don't think it works for a lot of people, and is maybe one of his lesser films, is because it isn't really it isn't like drenched in his touchstones. Like I'd say the first hour of the film doesn't really even feel much like a Tsukamoto film. um it's
Yeah,
kind of
more
more of
like
a,
a police procedural or something like that.
yeah, like a crime thriller and like
Hmm.
J horror combined, you
Hmm.
know. But I think I was kind of thankful that there was a bit more of a narrative than usual that he works with. That there was sort of like this crime thriller being built with like distinct characters that actually had names, as opposed to man, woman, young man, yeah, so on and so forth. Um, and I'm just a sucker for like stuff with dreams, like Nightmare on Elm Street. Like I have a Nightmare on Elm Street tattoo. Like I love stuff like that. And the dream sequences were pretty nuts. So I was like, okay, I'm kind of into this. And then we got about an hour in. I watched it on my own. I got an hour in and was like, okay, I think I can see. Yeah, I think the film is going to drop the ball here. And then about 10 minutes after that, I was just like, okay, now this is kicking up another level. Like it felt like this was like Tsukamoto, he's back, and it was like a weird dream sequence, like almost felt like Terrence Malick at points, but then there was like this crazy ass like creature out of the thing chasing the woman up like a, there's so many elements here that I was just
this
like,
is this is the dream master of Tsukamoto's filmography, is what this
yes.
is.
No, I mean it's closer to like Freddy's Dead. I
Yeah,
prefer
yeah.
Freddy's Dead personally.
Okay.
But yeah, I can, okay. I totally can see why you think it's boring and why a lot of people would find it's boring. And I think it's because the connective tissue, especially for the first hour, is a little like demanding. There are moments where you're kind of like, okay, like get on to the next thing, get on to the next thing.
And I do want to say that I just I didn't find the characters in this one compelling
No.
compared to like, man, this guy just kills it when it comes to the characters he creates for his films.
Yeah.
And that was a big letdown. And
Oh yeah,
Chue,
yeah.
Shi- Chue Ishikawa, his composer for
Yeah.
I think pretty much all his movies,
Hmm.
just was like asleep at the wheel or something here. I don't know, man. I just
I don't remember a second of it.
yeah,
Whereas like Gemini, the score for
yeah.
that was
Was oh
all
my
those
god.
choir sounds and stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that like
Yeah.
kind of like yeah.
Yeah, that stuff was great. Yeah, I don't remember the music at all in Nightmare Detective. I'd also say the character that is the Nightmare Detective is kind of just like, he's just like this emo-y, like floppy
Yeah.
hair dude.
Yeah.
Um I kind of dug the like main cop character, the woman.
Mhm.
Um, uh, I mean, I didn't really like the whole like, oh, she had to remember to take off her stilettos and put on sneakers thing. I was like, what?
Yeah.
It was some weird kind of like sexism that he was trying to address that wasn't really um working too well. But I actually kind of dug. There was the one cop who was kind of like a dick, and then he
Mhm.
sort of had like a better arc where like he actually became like a better person over the course of the film. And I was
Yeah.
like,
Right.
oh, okay, I kind of dig that sort of thing. Like when you,
Yeah.
I think that's actually something that is really refreshing in films, when you have the like sleazy like slime bag character who ends up
Yeah.
redeeming themselves, because
Mhm.
it's such a like rarity in films, you know?
Yeah,
And it's
at this
like
point, it's subversive, isn't it? Like,
totally, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, in our day and age and everything. That was one thing that really pissed me off about Barbarian, but that's a whole other podcast.
Yeah.
um but yeah, I think you know, it probably was the low expectations for me that really helped me get into it. And at the end of the day, you know, if you can come out of watching a film being like, "Oh, I had a good time," then like I'm kind of glad that I heard it sucked, you know, because I'm probably going to give it a 3.5, and I wrote a pretty like warm review of it, you know. But
Cool.
I will totally agree, under certain circumstances it is a boring film for sure.
Hmm. Yeah.
But
I
maybe
should.
the last half hour, you know.
Yeah. Um, yeah. I think I would have dug it more if it leaned harder to into the dream stuff,
mm.
um, and was less of the police procedural connective tissue. I think I wanted less of a narrative.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah, I wanted batshit crazy is what I wanted.
But okay, I think that would have worked if it wasn't an hour 40. I think if he did his usual like hour 20 and really condensed it, it could have worked.
I think if you take out a lot of that, the police work, all that stuff,
Okay.
then it would have been shorter anyway,
Yeah,
and
that's true.
yeah, it would have been a different movie altogether. But whatever. I'm glad you liked it, Bob.
There's some vicious parts too. Like maybe it's one of his goriest films.
I think it is, man.
Yeah.
There's one I can't remember where there's a heavy set dude that's in bed and he's just like
Oh.
cutting himself. Unfortunately I can't remember much of the movie because
Oh.
I've blocked out a lot of it. But there's a scene where the guy's in bed and he wakes up and he's just like
Oh yeah.
cutting himself over and over.
Yeah.
And I remember having a visceral reaction to that and just
Oh,
like,
cool.
oh my God, just someone stop him. Like,
Yeah, yeah. But that creature too, that's like, what even is it? You can't even get a full look of it, and it's just almost like sloppy innards in a way. Like,
yeah, the one that's chasing them at the end, you talking about?
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah,
man,
I'm
I
not
don't
sure.
know. That's the thing. The more I start talking about the film, like, man, this film kind of kicks ass a little bit. I don't know, man. You might need to revisit it at some point.
Maybe.
Yeah.
If I ever visit up your way, or maybe we'll throw it
Yes.
on and
Yeah.
watch it together.
I'm
I'll
kind
feed
of,
off your energy.
yeah, I'm like, yeah. I'm kind of curious about the sequels too, or I think there's maybe one sequel, but I might
He
check it
did the
out.
sequel, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
One thing though that really surprised me was that because you know we keep saying how it didn't really feel like a Tsukamoto film, but it is actually written by him.
Yeah.
So it's almost, you know what it felt like was because he is a great writer, director, and
Hmm.
everything. I think we have come to that conclusion, but it's almost like in order to do that film, he took a screenwriting workshop that sort of taught him how to like write a like quote unquote normal film. And I think
Right.
that's and then I that's kind of how it feels for the first hour, is like Tsukamoto trying to make like a basic thriller, like J horror thriller, and then towards the end he kind of like lets some steam go and he's just like, ah, fuck
Hmm.
it, let's rock and roll, baby, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. I think if I got more of the last 20 minutes of the movie, if it
Yeah.
was like that, you know, more
Oh
throughout the film, I would have been over the moon for it.
yeah, totally.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh
Yeah,
wow.
and I did I like the character he played, where he's just
Yeah.
this masochistic, you know, like I don't like he has, a, he doesn't die from his wounds, right? Like he's like, he's like Freddy Krueger or something. I don't know what he
In a
is.
way, yeah. But then
Right?
he's influencing these people to kill themselves, and
Yeah,
it
yeah.
made me think a lot of Long Legs.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. Yeah, he's more of a what is it, Manson?
Yeah, in a way, it is a very convoluted way of getting to that point. I also will say that the whole approach to suicide in the film is like kind of worth giving a heads up to people. For me, at least, I was like, they're playing real fast and loose with suicide
Big
here.
time.
Yeah, it's like maybe it's.
Like
I don't want to say, oh, maybe it's a cultural thing or something, but I'm
no,
just
but
like,
it's definitely um am I saying this right? It's handled with like kid gloves.
uh, it feels like it's handled with gloves covered in oil, where it keeps dropping it. You know what I mean? It's just so
Okay.
sloppy. Well, I
Yeah.
just because it's like it's kind of
But it's handled with boxing gloves.
boxing gloves, sure, like sweaty boxing gloves. It just feels like kind of disrespectful and tasteless,
I would say irresponsible.
irresponsible, sure,
Yeah.
yeah. But I kind of just like said, okay, well, here we go.
Yeah, I mean,
And
have you seen Suicide Club?
oh, that's the Sion Sono film, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, I saw that back in the day. I need to watch that
Mm.
again. That's a director that's like a pretty big blind spot for me. I saw Suicide Club probably in like 2004 or 5.
Okay.
And then I've watched you,
Goldfish.
no, the what it's like Playing in Hell or something. What's it called?
Oh yeah, yeah. Is that the one where they're making a movie or something?
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah, yeah.
I watched that one during the pandemic and was like, it's pretty fun. I didn't really know what to think of it. I wouldn't mind seeing some other films of his. So
Oh man, I gotta recommend you. Like right off the bat, Love Exposure
okay,
is mandatory viewing.
okay, cool.
It prepare yourself though. It is like 4 hours.
Oh, can we start with a shorter one? I'm like, I'd like to dip my toes into Sion Sono. You're like, well, I've got a 4-hour movie. I'm like, whoa, dude.
Yeah, yeah, that's like a head first dive into the deep end.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely do like Cold Fish is a good one to start. And I think since you like you're like really into the pink films and Roman porno stuff.
Anti-porno.
Anti porno, yeah, that's
Yeah.
it.
Okay.
That's
And you've
another
seen
good
that
one.
one?
Hmm.
Yeah. Okay. And it's isn't it sort of like him? Like I'm guessing based on the title, is it sort of like a deconstruction of a pink film?
Yeah, from what I remember, he's kind of bashing Roman pornos as not being real pink films.
Oh, okay, interesting.
Yeah,
Hmm.
because
That's
they've got a studio behind them. Like
oh my god, dude, that is
yeah,
some niche shit right there. That is. Can you get more?
yeah.
Can you get more niche than that? Of like having an issue with because that's something that does come up when people are like, well, it's technically not a pink film because it's made by a studio
That
and pink
seems like
films are
something.
independent.
That seems like a movie I feel like would be made. It would sprout from an argument. I'm imagining an argument between
Yeah.
like you, uh, tears in the rain. Like Jason on
Right.
Letterbox
Yeah.
and like Dave Jackson or something, like arguing
Yeah.
about what's a pink film and does this qualify and then
Right.
someone makes
Well,
makes anti porno.
the last time I heard someone bring that up was messaging Jared Honor from Mondo Macabro because I was asking
Hmm.
him about something to do with pink films, and he dropped the whole like, oh, it's technically not a pink film because Nikatsu put it out and blah blah
Yeah,
blah.
see,
And I'm just
yeah.
like, oh man, are we smelling our own farts again? Like, come on, like we gotta put this away. Like, just call it all. Like, really, who gives a shit? That's just
Yeah.
I feel like it should just all be pink films. That's the
Yeah.
best way. Like that's the only way we're gonna remember this stuff.
Yeah, that there is a distinction though between that and pinky
Right. Oh, pinky violence. Yeah.
violence. Yeah, I was like, we can't. We have to draw some kind of
Right. That makes sense
line
because
there.
to me, like having a genre distinction based on the content makes more sense than a genre distinction based on whether a studio or an
Right, right.
independent made it. You know,
Yep,
like I just feel like that's such a thing where if you watch a film and you don't know anything outside of that, how would you know it's a pink film or not a pink? Do you know what I
right,
mean?
right.
It's
No,
not like
yeah.
it's not like watching an SOV, like shot on video. People say that because you watch it and you go, "Hey, this is shot on video. I can clearly see that." This
Hmm.
is not something clearly like in. It's not given to the public when they or the audience when they watch this film. It's like by researching it, you know what I mean, that you'd find out like, "Oh, it's technically not a pink." Like, what is this?
A pink film should just be, measured on like BPM,
BPM, beats per
mm.
minute.
boobs per minute.
Oh,
I think
boobs.
that's
Oh,
the only. That's it, man. Like if
yeah.
sex is like the main thing, you
Yeah,
know,
yeah. I think
it's
it's supposed to be every 5 minutes, if I'm not mistaken.
yeah. Oh, I didn't even
Yeah.
know that.
I think that's what I read. But I don't know. I
Mm.
feel like I've seen some that are like don't follow that. I'm like, there was barely any, and I've seen some where I was like, okay, it's been every 10 seconds, you know? So
Yeah, you're right. The bedroom, Sato's
yeah.
movie. There's not that much. At least I don't remember there being
Yeah.
that much. It's only when they go into the bedroom, that
Yeah.
place where they,
Yeah. It just sounds
but
funny hearing you describe that and not knowing what you're talking about. It's only when they go
yeah.
into the bedroom that well, you know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree. Like some don't even adhere to that, whatever that rule is, that 5 minute, every five
Yeah.
minutes there should be a sex scene kind of thing. So who even
Yeah.
knows anymore what a pink film is?
No, I know.
Yeah. If you call yourself a pink film, then it's a pink film. We'll just leave it at that then.
Sure. Cuz I mean, yeah, I don't know. We could go on all day about that. But I feel like we've talked a lot about Tsukamoto, but I know that you've been waiting a long time for this moment to
Oh,
happen.
really?
Are
We're
you
going to talk
ready?
about Teruo Ishii finally. All right.
No, no.
Okay.
You don't know what's coming?
Yeah, I know what's coming. The Jer questionnaire.
Questionnaire. Okay, so I hope you prepared some answers, or
I
I
have
hope
none. No,
because
it's just gonna
you came
be.
up with this. So
Yeah, I don't remember any of them, so go for it.
oh, sweet. Well, first I just want to ask you, like, did it just come up from the top of your head of like with these
I was
questions, or
the questions were inspired. Well, not the questions themselves, but the idea was inspired by Stephen Colbert, where
oh,
he has the I don't know what he calls his, but he has a questionnaire as well for his guests.
okay,
It's something like 18 questions, or I don't know. It's a lot more than what you're asking, but
yeah, I've got 5.
yeah.
but
But
they're real stumpers. So
yeah, and it. I remember the ones we have here, like um, things really ramp up like after like question two. It, it's like oh, do
yeah.
you like ham sandwiches or peanut butter sandwiches? Okay, cool. Uh, what happens when you die?
Yeah, it is true. It is true. Okay,
So
well,
go for it.
without further ado, tea or coffee?
Coffee, 100%, man.
I'm always kind of weirded out when people say tea. Oh,
Yeah,
hey,
French press.
those. Yeah, French press. French press.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a drip guy personally.
Okay,
Yeah,
I
they're
could
pretty
get down with that
much
too. Yeah,
same thing. Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, now here's the big one. Choose one film for the rest of your life.
You know what? I'll let you answer this. If you know me well enough,
Oh shit. Okay.
What's the only movie I'm gonna pick? Come on, man. There is only one answer.
One film for the rest of your life?
Yeah.
Oh, I know what it is.
What is it?
The Fly.
Yes! That's it. That's it.
That's
It
a
doesn't
good
get
one,
easier.
man. Shit,
Yeah.
that's that's a really good one.
It's got it all.
Yeah, it really does. Okay. If you had to be an animal, which would you choose?
Turtle.
Not bad. No one said that one before.
Yeah. Yeah.
What
Absolutely.
is it about turtles?
They live long. They take life slow and eat, bang all day. That's it. What else? What else could you ask for?
That's all you gotta do. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's interesting. I notice a lot of times when people answer what animal they choose, the animal that they choose is something that allows them to be like lazy in a way. It's like if you're not yourself who works hard and is busy all the time, you be an animal that can just sleep all the time. You know what I mean?
For sure.
That's interesting to me. I don't know why.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What happens when we die?
I don't have the answer to that, but I'll let you know if I can.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, if I'll play along a little more. I like to think that we're borrowing our energy. This whole thing is borrowed. You get to take from the cosmos, from the universe, this energy, right? And then when you die, you have to give it back. And some of it gets used for plant food, some of it gets used for star gas, some of it gets used for a fart, some of it gets used for, whatever else, but it goes back. And I think that's a pretty cool thing that you get to play a role in that way. Like after all said and done, you got to give it all back and give someone else a turn.
Yeah. I love that. That's I've never heard someone explain what happens after you die in that way, and I don't just mean on this podcast with the questionnaire. But I don't know if I've really ever heard anyone say, you become energy that you give back, and I think that's like the most selfless theory in a way. It's because it's similar to reincarnation, except it's not about it's not about the repeating of the self. It's like the self dies and gives back into the world.
It strips away the ego in all of that. So
totally. Yeah, that's good stuff, man. All right, last question. Song title that best describes your life.
Oh boy. God, what asshole wrote these questions? I would say damn it, this is a good one. I'm going to go with Boogie Wonderland from Earth, Wind, and Fire.
Ooh, okay. Yeah. Boogie Wonderland by Earth, Wind, and Fire. Okay. I think I'm pretty sure I know that song. But it sounds very fun and upbeat.
Yes.
Which is, two words I would use to describe you. So
thank you.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Yep.
I feel also like Guy picked a similar song. What did he pick? Disco Inferno, maybe? Or something like that. It was so random.
Yeah. I was gonna say the theme song for Muppet Treasure Island.
I don't even remember what that is, but that's what he
Yeah,
picked. Yeah, his favorite
yeah,
film. Uh,
that's funny. Well,
mm-hmm.
cool, man. We
Yeah,
made it.
we
Yeah,
made it. We got it done. Yeah, I think you should just come on every season at least once.
sure.
And so if we don't think of a better director or topic to talk about, in a year from now, Teruyo Ishii, we're going to do it.
Oh my God, that'd be amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
geez,
didn't know
we
you were
should.
such a big fan.
Oh, yeah, man. It just so I recommend you read my review of Grass Labyrinth. That's not one of his movies, but
Oh, okay. I was
um,
going to say, I was like, that's someone else.
yeah, that's someone else. But in the review, I mentioned that I'm just so drawn to visuals
Yeah.
more than any other cinematic element. So
Okay.
Tero is just like, oh my God, he's like king for me in that regard. Just
Okay.
just paints like nobody else,
Yeah.
and it's usually like really decadent stuff too, man. Like he makes some really disgusting things look so pretty, and
Sure.
yeah, really captures a lot of the horror of misogynistic period
Yeah, definitely.
in Japan's history. So
Yeah.
I like him. I think he does good work.
Yeah, I definitely need to see a few more of his films. I've seen probably, I want to say like 5 of them so far.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I've saw like the main trilogy, um, Orgies of Edo and
Horrors of Malformed Man.
oh yeah, I've seen that
You
one.
seen that one?
Yakuza Live scene. Yeah, the one main one that you recommended I haven't seen yet. I want to see is the Bohachi Blade. I think that's what it's called, right?
Bohachi Bushido, Code
Bohachi
of the
Bushido.
Forgotten Eight. Oh
Yeah,
my
yeah.
god. There's one battle, one sequence in there is a battle between a ninja and the Bohachi Bushido women, and they to distract the ninja, they fight him in the nude,
Okay.
and it's one of the most hilarious sequences you will ever see in any movie ever.
Oh wow.
just
Okay.
just these women like jumping on him, and he's like he's like, I don't know what to do with my hands.
Oh wow. Okay.
And they're like totally kicking his ass, but yeah, no, it's good.
Cool.
It's a good one. Yeah, I think you
Cool.
get a kick
Yeah.
out of it.
I'll definitely watch that. Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll wrap it here so we can
Hmm.
keep it nice and tight. But
Yep,
yeah, I will talk to you soon, Jerry. Thank you for coming on.
been a
It's
pleasure,
been a
man.
pleasure. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's been a long time coming, so you will be
awesome.
back though. I will force you to.
Can't wait to do it again, man.
Okay. Have a good night, buddy.
Sayonara.